I found myself smack dab in the middle of an identity crisis. At the ripe old age of 33, I woke up one day with absolutely no idea who I was. Sure, I had a husband, I had a daughter, sure, I had a job. Sure, I had many roles that I played: a wife, a mother, an employee, a friend, a sister, a daughter. There were many hats that I wore, but those hats felt more like tunics, giving me labels of what I did versus who I was. As I ran around in do mode every day, grocery shopping, taking my daughter to school, answering emails, scheduling events, cleaning up my house, one single question would swirl around in my brain, interrupting my do and questioning my be. It would infiltrate all of my mantras of I'm fine and I'm blessed, and would ask quietly but with intense clarity, if all of these roles were stripped away from you, who would be left standing? Every time the question whispered, I would stand just dumbstruck, mouth agape, unable to answer. I was a stranger to myself. 33 years of squatting in a body that I didn't really understand. If you were to ask me what I liked to do back then, the only things I would have been able to really tell you were drinking coffee and traveling. I didn't know what my hobbies, my talents, my gifts, and my abilities were. Friends and family who meant so well would always ask me the question, if time and money were no object, what would you want to do? And what I wanted to do when they asked me that was punch them in the face, really, because if I knew the answer to that, I would totally go do it. I mean, hello. I might be blonde, but I'm not that slow. The only thing that kept me sane during this time was going for long walks in my neighborhood, listening to worship music and praying. And one unassuming morning, I donned my baseball hat, put in my earbuds, and I started walking. And I started noticing the most unusual thing. I started noticing a ton of butterflies. I don't have a natural affinity for butterflies, but the more I walked, the more I saw. And pretty soon it got so ridiculous, I felt like the Pied Piper of my neighborhood, with a pillar of butterflies before me and a pillar of butterflies behind me. And being the bright, intuitive person I am, I said, God, I think maybe you're trying to tell me something here. And always gentle, God replied with a wink and a smile, nothing gets past you, does it? So God and I began to chat about butterflies. We talked about how children love to catch them and chase after them and get them in nets and bring them home, how they love to watch as caterpillars cocoon and turn into butterflies. We talked more about the life cycles of butterflies and how they go through crawling and cocooning before they can fly. We talked about how they start off kind of ugly and then transform into beautiful things. And all of this was good, really good stuff that I was excited to know about. But there wasn't that aha moment, nothing that really grabbed me about it yet. So when I got home from my walk, I got on the internet and I started doing a little research. And I discovered so much cool information about the butterflies. And then finally, as a footnote at the very bottom of an encyclopedia page, I saw one small detail that changed everything for me. It said that the ancient Greek word for butterfly is psyche, which is the Greek word for soul. And I projectile cried all over my laptop, sobbing and heaving. And it was as if God came up behind me, put his hands on my shoulders, and whispered in my ear, aha. In that exact moment, the scales fell from my eyes as I understood that the identity crisis I was going through was a transformation of divine design that God was bringing me through to transform who I was, not what I did. He was transforming me into something that was meant to fly. Something that was meant to fly around in a devil-may-care flight pattern, just going with the breeze of the wind of the Holy Spirit. And like a butterfly, I had to undergo a season of transformation first. Romans 12:2 talks about this, about transformation from the inside out by the renewing of our minds in the way that we think. And as I began to unearth this concept of metamorphosis in my own life, God began to illuminate and highlight how every single one of us go through all these 4 stages of transformation. We all start with a birthing and a crawling and a cocooning and a flying, and it happens over and over and over again. He began to show me how we can see this concept played out in the Bible, from Genesis to David to Jesus himself. And he gave me permission, as I learned all of this, to stop striving and to just be exactly where I was. To embrace a life of becoming is using a renewed mind to see past where I am into where I'm going. And the same thing goes for all of us. In this series of videos, I'm going to outline these seasons of transformation and what they look like. And we're going to talk about how we need to get past 20/20 vision, which makes something big or something small look really big, but getting into Romans 12:2 vision, where we see something big so much better. I hope you'll stick around.